Welcome to the Finding the Magic podcast, where books come alive. I'm Trisha Copeland, a fiction author and host of this show. If you love books, finding great reads, and hearing about the story behind the story directly from the authors, this is the place for you. Whether you like fantasy, science fiction, dystopian, or romance titles, I think you'll find something to love in my playlist. Listen in to discover something magical about a book or two today. Welcome, Jordan.
Hey, Trisha. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Today we have author JordanLoyal Short with us. He is a fantasy author, and I can't wait to dive in because, well, I don't think any babies were harmed, right? In your last novel?
Not in the latest series, at the very
Okay.
least.
Well, things happen. Some people have to die sometimes. You hope it's not children, but evil people do evil things, right?
Yes, and as the author, I don't accept responsibility for any of that.
It's not your fault. No, I totally agree. So your first series is the Dreadborn Ode. Tell us about that.
So the Dreadbound Ode, it starts with the Skald's Black Verse. It's a very dark series, grimdark. It's kind of like Norse berserkers and Black Omens, end of the world kind of stuff. Very draws on themes from Ragnarok, but it also has like eldritch space travel and space Viking pirates, and I think it's was a lot of fun to write. It was really uh, a cool way to. I love mythology, so it was really fun to kind of like pick apart Norse mythology and like take the little tidbits that I enjoyed and twist them into something different. So if you're looking for a something that's got really cool lore and world building and morally great characters, give that one a shot, definitely.
Oh, fun. Tell us about the main characters. Do they have magic? Do they practice magic? What's going on?
Yes. So there's three main characters in it, and each of the there's three. It's a trilogy, so each of the book kind of mostly follows one of those, even though they're all present in each of the books. So the first book is Bror's story, and he is like one of the kind of the bastard son of one of the conquerors, and he's been raised by the locals who kind of hold it against him because he's, the son of one of the people that have conquered them. Um, and in his life, he has been subjected to a kind of very dark magic where he has kind of like that evil, like dark passenger that's kind of riding with him that is an otherworldly force that's, turns out to be, well, I won't spoil it, but you
Yeah,
can,
don't spoil it.
but he has this kind of berserker rage that he has in him. And so when things get dark, he kind of calls on this other force that takes him over and sends him into a rage that definitely, especially as his story progresses, is more and more magical and empowered. As for the magic, there's multiple kind of overlapping magics. There's that, obviously. And then another of the main characters, Henrik, is what they call a binder. And their magic is very much based on using souls. So they will, like, for instance, they typically operate on animals, but they will take an animal's soul, like sacrifice it basically, and trap its soul in an object, and then use that, release that magical power and turn it towards whatever they're intending to do with their spell.
Wow, that's a lot going on. It sounds like, especially the first character, I forget his name already, Bork.
Bror, that's okay. Bror.
Um, he's dealing with a lot of inner demons, maybe that he can't completely control. You're not sure if he's a good guy or a bad guy, but maybe he's a little bit of an underdog character then.
Absolutely true, yes. And I think also the can't tell if he's a good guy or a bad guy. He definitely will swim back and forth between those two polarities.
Those are always good to read. And
And
to write these books first person or third person?
they're third person POV, like a limited, each of the chapters kind of has an individual character that you get closer to their perspective, but maybe not exactly in their first person thoughts.
But you see all that fantasy world. And are they present? So like contemporary, or what is their technology?
So the technology level, so there's two kind of core cultures, and one of them is pretty primitive. That's the locals, the Norn. They're vaguely based on, oh, there goes my dog, sorry. They're vaguely based on Viking culture and Norse culture. Um, and then there are the conquerors who have come to their world and taken over, and they're actually based more on Carthaginian society, but there's a lot of like Roman overtones because I think people don't know as much about Carthaginian society as they do about Roman society. So I kind of melded the two together, and they use the magic that they use for space travel is like inherited from an older civilization. So they're kind of like fleas picking at the remnants of something and using tools that they don't really understand.
They- So do they mess them up sometimes if they don't understand them?
And that can be a terrifying thing when you're floating around in space. Yes.
Yes, that would be bad. But I mean, if it's magic, do you need oxygen or not really?
They have that part figured out at least. They can survive long enough to go from one place to another.
Or get to one place to the other. Interesting. So tell me about your latest series. I think Dragon Reich, right?
That is correct. So Dragon Reich is a much more upbeat kind of story. It's another fantasy series. I kind of bill it as like Indiana Jones meets Dungeon Crawler Carl. It's very much adventurous and fun and comedic. But it does have political undertones, and it's very much about things that are thematically, at least, things that I think we need to be thinking about in the modern era. It follows a character who has magic that he draws from the dragon well. The magic system is there are supernatural entities in the olden days, and their power was confined into different wells. So you have the demon well and the dragon well, and the celestial well, and different things like that. Um, and he draws power from the dragon well, but the danger is that if you draw too much, it can give you a tumor, and the tumor begins to transform you into the type of magical creature that you're drawing from their well. So in Victor, the main character's case, during the opening scene, his unit is at the end of the last Great War is ambushed. And in order to save his friends, he draws too much magic and he gets a tumor and starts to slowly transform into a dragon. The catch is that it's not like awesome, I'm turning into a dragon. It's cancer. It's definitely cancer. It's not going in a good way. And so, of course, I think that's intended as a metaphor for, white supremacy and Nazism and how that cancer can grow inside of people.
Interesting. So it sounds like it's very, I mean, a cancer can stand for a lot of things. Do the characters tell you it's more about something political than something, or is it just kind of there?
So there is within the story, there kind of the enemy is the Thule Society, which is like a cabal of, they call themselves kind of dragon supremacists, and they believe that the dragon well is just naturally superior to the others, and they actually have an ideal where they want to transform themselves into dragons, and so they believe that getting this dragon tumor is like the first step into becoming, sort of like the Ubermen, where they believe that they are becoming more, and they are dragon supremacists and they want to take over the world, and
Okay.
predictable stuff from there.
Right, but it sounds like the main character doesn't want this to happen, right?
Definitely does not. Yes, and he is struggling against those guys. Well, in fact, so I
While
wanted
he's
to,
becoming them, though, yeah.
I'm like a straight white guy. So from my perspective, I want to explore these ideas from the place of the person who, would be welcomed into this and has to reject it. It's nevertheless. And so Victor is, the society is very much based on German society. Um, and he is like the tall, blonde haired, blue eyed guy that would have been the Aryan ideal, and he has to see that there's a place for him in that, and also see like I don't want that and reject it.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like fantasy is a really good genre to be able to explore a lot of those issues and talk about them a way that can feel safer and feel more comfortable for people. I mean, is that sort of your vehicle for saying, hey, pay attention to this?
Yes, yeah, definitely. And I think it is a really good opportunity. There's a lot of people who don't engage with what people might think of as more serious texts, um, but they do enjoy fantasy as an escape from this. And I think, like, especially right now, without dancing around this too much, like right now is a really tumultuous time in American politics, and I think that there are a lot of people who are kind of in a place where they want to escape from this because it feels bad because it's happening all the time all around us, and it's a lot to process. And on the other hand, this is a way that they can take a step back and like enjoy a fun ride but also be reinvigorated by, yeah, this is a fight that we're gotta face at the same
Right.
time.
Like they can figure out what they do stand for and maybe step back in a way that's meaningful and reflective for them.
Yeah, and I absolutely hope that, like, that's the best that I can hope for as a writer, is to have that kind of influence on someone.
Yeah, that's neat. Yeah, I write young adult fantasy, and one time I got a hold of this podcast that said like the fantasy is actually bad for young adults because it takes them out of their element and it doesn't treat them like show them what the real world is like. And I'm like, okay, let's rewind that a little bit. Like, okay, this is kind of a safe place to explore a lot of different topics that may feel a little uncomfortable in the real world. So let's just read fantasy.
Yeah, and isn't that just exactly what literature of all stripes does? It like creates a place where you can escape and you can think about these ideas that are not, learn lessons. That's what started from the first fireside storyteller, is taking you away, but also teaching you something that's going to take you back to the real world and give you a better chance at survival.
Right, right. To teach you, hey, don't go in the deep water, or hey, don't run in front of a lion, or hey, you might want to wash your hands.
Yeah, right.
So, what is your background? Did you start writing? Do you have a writing degree? How did you begin being an author?
Well, I've always liked writing. Yeah, I haven't always been serious about it. My aunt told me that when I was a little kid, I used to write like little page-long detective stories. I wrote a little bit when I was in high school and in college. I started moving towards like a computer science track, and then after a while, decided that I didn't really want to do that. So I kind of flailed for a while, and then I had a short story class that I really enjoyed. Just like randomly took it as an elective. And so I wrote quite a few short stories, and then I decided that I wanted to get an English degree, and I shifted a little bit and took like an emphasis on creative writing. So I did actually get a degree in it. But then, of course, I that doesn't really put you into much of a career. So I bopped around a little bit. I was a bartender for a while, and then I worked as a copywriter, and then I was a manager of like a creative team for a game company. And then I just got sick of corporate stuff, and my wife and I quit our job. So we got a boss that we didn't like, and so I took some time off and wrote the Skald's Black verse. And I don't make enough money to live off them. And, it's more like beer money than it is bill money. But I since then have taken gone back to bartending, and I just work a couple days a week, and it gives me time to write books on the side, which I love.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that sounds like the perfect balance of, okay, I'm getting out and talking to people, and then I can go home and write my books.
Yep, and I can go back into my cave.
I see all these sticky notes behind you. Is that how you're plotting out your stories?
Oh yeah, yeah. So every time now, I didn't always do this, but the last couple of books that I've written, I found this to be really, really helpful. So I just go see if they're color coded, and each of the colors is one of the character POVs. And so I just like label the individual scenes, and it kind of gives me like an overall feel of like, who's getting enough attention in the story and how things are moving along. And if there looks like there's, kind of boring parts or whatever, I can patch something more exciting in there. But I also find this really, really helpful when you're going back to do revisions and you're like, okay, there's this scene that I need to work on. God, what chapter is that? And instead of like paging through 40 pages of story looking for the right, you can just be like, that is chapter 15.
Yeah, I like that system. I do use that system. I didn't use the color coding, so that's a very good idea. But yeah, my editor finally got me to do outlines, not before I write, but I outline, like once I write a chapter, I outline. So at least like if I can go through my outline and find something, then I
Well,
can
that's a
find
good
it
idea.
earlier in the book. And I put like page numbers on the outline. So at least then if I'm going back, especially for a series, she was finding like, okay, you're at the fourth book of your series, you need to do an outline for me because I'm going to go crazy. So yeah.
Yes, I recently had a moment where I all of a sudden wasn't sure what color a character's hair was, and I had to do some deep digging to figure out what it was.
I do have my character descriptions in like one document, so I have gone that before the outlines. I did go that far, but yeah. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. What do you have coming up next? Is this you had a new release in the Dragonreich series?
I did. Let's see if I've got this thing back here. Hey, look at that. So I just put out Pages Higher, which is the second book in the Dragonreich series. That came out not too long ago. It was what, December? Actually, that's a while ago now. But in probably either October or maybe even September, if I can get cracking on it, I'm coming out with the next book in that series, and that's going to probably be called the Dragonbone Elixir. Uh, so I'm excited about that. We get to follow one of my favorite characters who is like a zany alchemist. So it's been a lot of fun. I've just finished the first draft recently, and that was a lot of fun to write. And so now I'm digging back in and revising it.
Fun. Will that be the end to that series, or is it going to keep going?
I'm thinking it'll probably be a 5 book series, actually. I haven't, it's not set in stone, but what I'm looking at right now looks like 5.
We touched on a little bit for your Dragonreich series. What besides those themes do you want readers to get from your books? Like, what experience do you like for them to have?
Well, first of all, it's fun. It's definitely like a romp. There's a lot of body humor and like BAWDY body humor and dick jokes and like silly characters who just crack you up all the time. And it's very adventurous also, like really imagine like thwarting traps in a underground dungeon while you're delving to find buried treasure and mad zeppelin rides where you're being chased by dragons and stuff like that.
That sounds like a lot of fun. And are those maps behind you too?
This is Middle Earth over here, and this one actually. So there is a map on my chart
Okay,
that has that's the map of the world that this story is in. Yes,
fun. And do you put the maps in your books too?
I do. Oh yes, got it.
You gotta have the maps. It looks like in the Dragonreich series, they're dressed in a little bit of like medieval costumes. Is it?
Like the time period I'd say is like roughly analogous to like 18th century Prussia actually is kind of like the blueprint for it. So there's just the beginnings of firearms in it and kind of like a definitely an Enlightenment style kind of dress where they're wearing like frock coats and one of the main characters is very all about having the right wig for the right occasion and that sort of thing.
You talked about mythology. Do you research then like the period so that I mean, it's a fantasy book, but have you researched to get that part right or so that you
It's
kind of notice
really
that?
not for that, definitely. Actually did do more research actually on World War II and sort of some of the seminal Nazi figures and some of the like for instance the Thule Society is that's like the big bad guy cabal and that's an actual society. I think some World War II buffs will definitely have heard of that and it's like an actual occult society that some Nazis were members of that was very about blood and soil was their thing, their idea that they had fought and died on German soil. And so they had like a mystical connection to it. So I did more research on kind of the ideas and the figures who, because it seems, looking back, we look at a time like that and we think like, who the fuck are these guys? Like, what? Like, how do these people think like this? And it's hard to find a way to show characters like that without them feeling, ridiculous. But I also discovered that in this kind of zany romp, it's actually fun to make them look ridiculous because they are ridiculous, and we should point at them and laugh at them. We don't like them.
Yeah, I mean, well, a lot of times in books and stories, you want to have that character that's like the archetype or the typical, well, and in comedy too, like they're like an intensified version of that personality trait or that type character, so that they're embodying whatever, you're trying to show in that character, and whatever character development or non-development that you want to show for them.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun in this series to kind of have like the different levels of turning up that mustache twiddling kind of villain, where you have like some of the people that are like just over the top, and then some of the people who are more nuanced, and you can see, like, you can just get inklings at least of like, oh, okay, well, now I understand how this person kind of got lured into this idea, and kind of showing like gradients of how that can sneak its way in.
Yeah, do you ever go back and show people's backstory? Just to, I haven't like done that for my villains yet, and it's kind of daunting for me to say, okay, well, do you make the villain just a villain for the sake that they're a villain, or do you make them so that they have some redeeming qualities or something that happened in their life that made them that way?
Well, in the Dragon's Reich series, I haven't done any flashbacks in that, but I do. So in Dreadbound O, there is a character who was really easy to hate. Like, she was just super abrasive, and she was very cruel to one of the main characters, and it was easy just to hate her. And then as the story progressed, then you see, so it's not actually flashbacks, but you are introduced to the characters from her origin, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Now I understand why she's like that. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So maybe like a personality thing or a trait within that race of characters that kind of makes them that way. Interesting. Well, tell us where we can find you, Jordan, and where we can find your books.
You can find me on Amazon is where I am selling these days, and Audible. The Dragon Rank series is not on Audible yet, but you can definitely pick up the Dreadbound Ode, starting with the Skald's Black Verse on Audible. If you want to check out the Skald's Black Verse, you can go to JordanLoyalShort.com, and you can sign up for my newsletter, and you can get a free Kindle copy of that. Otherwise, you can always just Google me. I'm on social media pretty much everywhere except Twitter. So look me up. I'd be very grateful.
Well, great. Jordan Loyal, short fantasy author. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you'll come back when you release your next book.
I would love to. I had a good time. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Finding the Magic podcast. I'm your host, author and podcaster Tricia Copeland, and I love getting behind the scenes. If you like the podcast, make sure to subscribe and stop in each week to discover new authors and books. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep finding the magic.